Violent protests breaking out at the G20 summit in Germany, and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, well, he did not want to miss out. He skipped an NYPD swearing-in ceremony while the force is grieving a fallen officer, as you remember, so he could protest President Trump and other world leaders at the summit.
Should the mayor really ditch New Yorkers to push his progressive agenda in Germany? Here to weigh in is retired NYPD lieutenant and CEO of WatchGuard 24/7, John Rafferty. John, thank you for being here. We all sort of talk about what our big stories are before the show. This one gets me so fired up, I can literally not contain myself. This is an abomination that he is over there when this city is suffering and his people, his police force, is suffering.
Well, I think he has his personal agenda. I don't think New York is his main agenda. I think obviously what we've seen him do in office the last few years, we don't believe he's pro-cop. If anything, he ran a campaign as an anti-cop campaign that got him, elected. Honestly, I think the police department know what they know, and the troops, even though it would be a great boost in morale, I think they're better off that he wasn't there.
Interesting. So you're saying the swearing-in ceremony, which I'm sure mayors regularly attend, you would want to show leadership to the force that protects your city. You're saying most of the cops there would likely say, hey, the mayor's not here, no big deal.
Well, no, it is. It's just because of what's happened over the last few years with him, trashing the cops. It's not a surprise by any means. I don't think anybody should be surprised that he wasn't there, that he has his own personal agenda. I believe that if you understand what he's all about, I think you're probably better off that he wasn't there. I think half the stuff that comes out of his mouth is absolutely false. Would it be a great morale boost for the cops if he was a mayor that actually backed the police department? Absolutely. I think sure. After this tragic event with police officer Familia, it would be great. But knowing what you know about de Blasio, I think you're better off that he wasn't there.
Let's review to what he is going to protest and speak at over there in Germany. This is not a civil rights march that we will all look back 50 years from now and say that was an important historic event in society. This is a group of unorganized people that, if you heard Dan Bongino talk about it on our air, he doesn't know what they're fighting for. They don't know what they're fighting for. They're there just to create chaos. Yet he is going there and supporting them when here in New York City, since he's been in office, this city has seen its share of problems. And before he got here, quite frankly, it was a city that was tough to mess up.
Yeah, two great predecessors on crime, right? So you had, two mayors that wouldn't allow people to take over the streets, wouldn't allow people to shut down the streets. There's a difference between protesters and anarchists, and this is what's going on. When you're allowing people to just shut down streets and destroy things, and you're having mayors saying they understand people and their distrust in the police department, and who are you siding with? You're emboldening the criminals and not the police department.
That's a great point. It's one thing to protest, another thing to go hang out with a bunch of anarchists that are throwing Molotov cocktails at cops in Germany. Well, let's let the mayor speak for himself. This is what Mayor de Blasio said about his choice on a radio interview.
I think it was incumbent upon me as the leader of the biggest city in the country to set a tone and to say we're not going to be intimidated by President Trump, and we're not going to turn away from our values. And that, I've said many times, this is not someone you get something done by compromising with or yielding to. He only understands strength, and we have to show strength.
You set a tone, the proper tone, as the mayor by siding with anarchists who are fighting police.
Right. And my thing is this, he's the mayor of New York City. That should be your main priority. You look at New York and you look at Manhattan, every other block you have a homeless person, you have somebody begging on a street corner. The city was rebuilt on the principles of the broken windows theory, addressing the smaller issues, right, that turn into larger issues.
Jaywalking.
Yeah, well, everything.
Like
listen, stop and frisk. Now we're going to turnstile jumping. Everything. Exactly. You know what? 2 decades ago, you had over 2,000 murders, and that was all reduced because everything was addressed. It wasn't allowed to get to the next level. And now we're going back, and now we have prosecutors, failing to prosecute certain crimes, right? We're decriminalizing marijuana. Marijuana turns into a lot more than just a small crime. There's so many other crimes attributed to marijuana.
Which is what the left just doesn't understand. That's ultimately compassionate. When you provide a safe and secure street to anyone of any color, of any economic background, you give everyone an opportunity to succeed. When you don't, you set those that are the most troubled potentially back even further.
Absolutely. And what it is that he doesn't have New York City as his primary agenda, and that's the sad thing. I think he's more of an activist than a mayor, and I think everybody who knows him, sees that, and it's unfortunate for New York City, everybody in New York City.
Still the greatest city in the world.
Absolutely.
But for how long?
Absolutely.
We'll see.
John Rafferty, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.